Hello, mainstreamers and cinephiles and everybody in between. I'm Bryant.
And I'm Caitlyn.
And Operation Silver Screen is a go.
Hello, welcome to Operation Silver Screen, the cinematic operation created to tackle Bryant and my backlog of must-see films through the ages. Today's episode is going to be a little different than usual, as you can tell by the episode title. We are currently in the middle of awards season, with the Oscars set to air on March 27th, so in preparation for this, HQ passed down the mission to watch and assess the best films of 2021. For today's debrief, we are going to be going through a couple award categories of our own and sharing our own personal favorites of the past year. Joining us, we will also have special guest Deon Griffin, who last assisted us in our Matrix Resurrections mission. We think you guys like what he had to say last time, so we're glad to have him back with us. And for those of you who hasn't listened to that episode, Deon, do you want to quick introduce yourself, or do you have anything to say?
I'm happy to be back, and I still don't like The Matrix. It will show up in some of our categories today. Well, The Matrix Resurrections. I like the Matrix series as a whole without that fourth little entry. But yeah.
Today we'll be discussing some of our standard best films, acting and technical categories, usually the things that you see talked about during the Oscars and the other awards. However, ours are going to be a little bit more different. We're a little bit more honest, a little bit more closer to the people with our choosing. And in addition, we have some fun categories of our own. So going forward, we will also try to keep our discussions as spoiler-free as possible in case there are ones that haven't made it through your watch list yet, while still explaining why we believe each of our winners deserve to be considered the best of 2021. And I'm pretty sure you guys already have your torches ready to go. And on our comment section, about to light us on fire in our DMs. But wait, these opinions are subjective. Okay? If you do have any films that either we missed or that you disagree with us, please let us know in our social media.
And we'll be dropping those handles at the end of the episode.
Yes, we will be, Caitlyn. Now, talking about 2021, before we get into all the specific categories, how did you guys feel about 2021 as a whole?
Yeah, I feel just like the year. I think it just wasn't a good year for cinema, in my opinion. I don't think there's reasons, obviously. There was a lack of production that was able to occur in the previous year. And a lot of films were delayed and postponed. So I just don't think it wasn't that good of a year for cinema goers.
Yeah, I completely disagree. I think that just in general, this year was a kind of going back to normal. I think this is also a year where we saw a lot of good films on streaming services for the first time. So I think this is probably the most accessible year that there's ever been as far as good movies go. So I watched a lot of movies this year, and I don't know. I thought it was great. I thought there was a really good selection here, not just from American movies, but also from foreign films as well.
I'm going to go ahead and agree with you, Deon. I know we talked about this Caitlyn before, especially when we said that we're going to be doing this episode and I had a lot of films to watch. I was not looking forward to watching a lot of these films. Some of them were, I want to say a surprise. Some of them I did enjoy watching. Other ones, there was a reason that I was dragging my feet on them. I do agree with what you said about this year being more accessible, or 2021 being more accessible, and things coming back into production. I think 2021 kind of showed what the path is going to be looking like in movies, but as far as actually delivering anything, I don't think there was really that much. I remember last year I was having a hard time trying to figure out what movie I was going to watch for that week. I mean, even this week alone, as we're recording this in 2022, I have 4 movies that I'm really looking forward to seeing, and so far they've all been receiving very good reviews. So yeah, not a big fan of 2021, and there was not a lot I was looking forward to, and there were a couple that actually disappointed me. I think there were more disappointments than movies actually living up to the hype that I have for them.
Yeah, no, I still definitely disagree. I do think, though, that the output of films coming out for 2022 is a lot greater. I don't think that there was too big of an output in 2021, but I think what we got, it was good. And I don't think there was any that I was particularly excited for coming into 2021. I think The Green Knight was the only film that I was really, really hyped for going into it. But what I was able to watch, things that wouldn't have been on my radar any other time, I did get a chance to watch, and I was very pleasantly surprised.
And while I say it wasn't a good year, there were still good films, good performances. Actually, something that may become one of my favorite films did come out last year. So they were still good there, but when you look at 2021 as a whole, 365 days, I don't think there was that much there. At least for me, there wasn't that much there.
And I will say again, with foreign films this year too, I think looking at the Oscar nominations, I think they're doing so well. I think that the American market's putting a place more for foreign films in their award categories and in the public conscious. And we saw that even with Squid Game too, if we want to talk about from the television side of things. So I think just having those options more accessible as well and more hyped, I think that for me really just made this year.
And again, that's another thing. I think 2021, it at least is showing the path that we're going in. It does look good. There are a lot more foreign films out there. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a lot more Korean IPs out there this year because of how well they did last year. And yeah, there were a couple foreign films that I really liked from last year. So it's good to see that, hey, we're going to be getting more of that this year. Even in anime, one of the biggest movies of last year, one that the West was really trying to pull for was Demon Slayer. And then we have Jujutsu Kaisen coming out. So we're getting more of a diversity with movies.
I definitely think 2021 is going to mark a shift for film in a way. I think, like you said, coming out of this pandemic, kind of recovering for that and having this shift with foreign films, I think will be interesting to see how 2022 goes with that shift. But I got to applaud 2021 for tackling that.
But do you not think it may be a product of sort of the circumstances in which the American market had shut down on films, so they quickly started buying properties from other countries to try to fill the voids, because Netflix only had so many American Hollywood produced films that they could showcase, that they had to reach out to other countries and say, hey, can we slap Netflix on your film and distribute it in the US? I agree, like there were some great foreign films, but I don't think it was necessarily something that was intentional, other than the fact that it became a product of sort of the circumstances where production wasn't happening. And I may be wrong, because obviously we did have Parasite that won in 2020, which was a major shift because there had never been a foreign film that had won Best Picture. If I'm correct, I believe it was the first foreign film to win Best Picture at the Oscars. There's already a demand for different cultures and foreign films, but I think COVID was definitely a push, because Netflix, Hulu, Amazon weren't going to lose subscribers. So in order for them to have content, they had to reach a bit broader, since Hollywood wasn't producing as much, in my opinion.
I would argue that the shift started with Roma, which was pre-COVID. That received so much buzz when it came out, and in my opinion was snubbed. And I think Parasite was, in a way of remedying the anger and backlash that came from Roma not winning. So I think that we as a culture are already starting to see that shift. And some of it might be what you said because of COVID, but I think it was already happening.
I could see a mixture of both. And I didn't think about that, Deon, but that makes a lot of sense, is that, well, especially all the streaming services, because now all the streaming services, they're pulling movies from other places, and they can't necessarily make movies because of what we have going on our side of the world. But I don't think that they would have tried it if they didn't see that it worked before with movies like Parasite and Roma. So they probably were like, well, hey, it worked with them. Let's go ahead and try it out, see what happens. And then more people started noticing, and then it started to have that snowball effect. So I think it's a mixture of both. You wouldn't have had it if those other movies didn't show that, hey, a movie can succeed, and then we wouldn't have continue having it without it showing like, oh, it's working extremely well.
I think you also saw a lot of big name directors too kind of coming up in popularity a bit more. I mean, if you talk about Celine Sciamma, she did so well with Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Of course, people were going to be hyped for her second film, or not her second film, but her newest film, Petite Maman. And that's one that I saw a lot of hype for. And also Joachim Trier, I think he had a lot of success with the Oslo trilogy. I mean, we had our whole episode on that. So I think that there is some kind of attachment to these directors that are coming up. I mean, Pedro Almodovar is a huge name. I think anytime you see his name attached to a film, it's going to get hyped. And all those directors releasing stuff this year.
And we say Hollywood, but I don't think it's necessarily the Hollywood. It's these studios, because Hollywood isn't known for really taking too many changes, especially as far as like where their focus is. While they do tend to try to be more liberal and progressive, I think they always kind of wait for somebody else to do it, and then when they see a trend, they go for it. So I think, again, with the streaming services that we have and everybody trying to be more competitive, appealing to not just the US, but appealing to the rest of the world, that's where we got a bit of a shift in focus or some momentum going with foreign properties.
I think, too, another thing I noticed that this year succeeded in that other years hadn't is just the amount of lead actresses and amount of lead female-led films, I think, was more so than any other year that I've seen. And I honestly had a hard time sometimes looking at some of these actor categories because there was just, the actress categories were so packed for me. We had a lot of films this year about mothers as well. I think most of the nominations this year were about motherhood. So it was interesting to see. Like I said, I think this is definitely a different year than other years, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I definitely saw that there were a lot more female-led roles in the movies that were being released. And in a natural way, not like what they were kind of trying to do before where they were, well, you had Ghostbusters, Ocean's 13, where you can see that they were really trying to push it for marketing purposes and for appearances.
So yeah, I mean, we can definitely talk all day about what we thought about 2021 as a whole, but I think we can go ahead and start getting into some of our specific categories for this year. So the way that we're going to be doing these categories, we have a couple different ones, but as far as our favorite film of the year, we're going to be going through our top 5 favorite films of the year, and we're going to start number 5 pick right now. So, Deon, let's start with you since you're our guest. What was your number 5 film of the year, and why was this in contention for your best picture for the year?
My number 5 favorite film of the year was Coda. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a very sweet, simple film. And definitely, what I've noticed is Apple's property, like the TV shows and the films they're putting out, you can get the basic log line off of these properties and you can understand why it would be an interesting story to tell. So obviously this girl, without giving away spoilers, this girl is living in a household and her entire family, her mother, her father, and her brother are all deaf, and she's also a singer. So I'm immediately right there. So you can see where sort of the creativity in this story is. So a girl that can sing being brought up in a household that is deaf and non-speaking. So I really enjoyed the film. I loved it. I thought it was really heartfelt. I just really enjoyed it. It made me feel good.
Yeah, I agree. And we talked before about how a good log line will take you places. I didn't really think about that for this film, but you're absolutely correct with that. But yeah, I absolutely enjoyed this film. And I also liked the comparisons between being a Coda, a child of deaf adults, and being a child of immigrants who are non-English speaking, because I think that the film tackles that in a way that was very interesting to me as well. And it's a heartwarming story. I showed it to my mom because I knew that she would like it. And yeah, I thought it was fantastic.
If I did have anything to criticize about the film, I didn't know how I felt about the fact that most of the music in the film was black music, very soulful music. But obviously the film has a supreme lack of diversity. So there was a bit of a contrast there where every piece of music in the film, I think, every single piece of music in the film was from a black artist, but yet, and I mean, you don't necessarily expect the greatest diversity in a New England coastal town known for fishing, so, but it was just interesting that obviously those were the music choices that they made for the piece, and it is sort of a La La Land situation almost.
Yeah. I feel like this was a good year, too, for sign language and the deaf community in film as well. Because I know even with Dune, they showed sign language. And there's a couple other movies that I saw this year. I'm kind of blanking on which ones that also had characters who were deaf. Drive My Car was one of them, where sign language was a big part of it. And so I thought that was really cool to see.
Yeah, and the year before that, they had Sound of Metal.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Sound of Metal is good. Also, you're missing out on one of the big ones from last year as well, as far as sign language and featuring an actress who was deaf, which is A Quiet Place Part 2.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, for Coda, it's a feel-good movie. I think it follows a lot of patterns that we see in these coming age of film where somebody's doing something that is in contrast to what the parents would like for them to do. But I can understand why somebody would like it. I just don't think it did anything other than the aspect of being a child of deaf adults and having deaf actors in there. I don't think there was much more to make it an outstanding film. Also, when you guys say logline, what do you mean?
So a log line is essentially a 1 to 2 sentence description of the film in which you can quickly describe the main conflict and have people interested in the piece. So obviously for that film, I would imagine teenage girl who has a love for singing is brought up in a household with her deaf family. So you can quickly sort of see where the conflict can arise in that film. So I thought, all right, this was a very clever story to tell. Is it the most creative and new film? No, it does follow a lot of the trends of sort of the coming of age story, like I want to get out of here and I want to be my own person. So that's why I don't necessarily think it should have been nominated for Best Picture or win. I thought it was a feel-good film. I like it for what it was, what it is. But I didn't think, other than the aspect of, yes, there are deaf actors portraying deaf characters and scenes filled with sign language, I thought that was special. But as far as the storytelling, it wasn't anything that was completely out of the box when it comes to coming of age. But then again, that's why we love them. Sometimes they're dependable. When you need that quick uplift, you can just watch it and go on skipping down the road.
So Bryant, what was your number 5 film of the year then?
So my number 5 pick was actually a movie that you showed me, Caitlyn, that we watched during our SAM, was Shiva Baby.
Yay.
Yeah, I enjoyed Shiva Baby. It's probably one of my favorite comedies of last year. But other than just the comedy and the unique comedy, I really liked the way that it was filmed. It all takes place in this, for the most part, in this one setting during a funeral, almost in real time. And I love the way that they made a pressuring and awkward social interaction between the main actress and her family members and friends. Just the way how it felt congested, and it had a lot of anxiety. It kind of compared to Uncut Gems, kind of being on the edge of your seat with these conversations, and you yourself are getting annoyed with these other characters. But it makes for a good laugh, and it keeps you guessing what the next thing is going to appear on topic as well. And I think, again, just giving it to the director to be able to portray that, because we were watching another movie, the movie, which I don't even really want to mention because it was not a great movie, Lucky. And we're talking about how she's getting hounded by all these cops and social workers and emergency services around here, but somehow you don't feel that same amount of pressure as you do in Shiva Baby, when she's just getting asked, hey, what are you doing now for work? What are you doing now for school? What are you going to be doing after work? Oh, hey, how did you get that money? And for those who don't know, Shiva Baby is about a woman who has to go to a funeral service, basically keep up conversation. But Shiva Baby, she's also a sugar baby. And one of her sugar daddies, I believe that's the political term, one of her sugar daddies just so happens to be at the funeral as well. If that wasn't enough, one of her exes is at the funeral as well. And she's not necessarily holding up the life that she's telling everybody. So it makes for a lot of good, comedic moments and dramatic moments as well.
Yeah, I do want to give props to the director for that as well, Emma Seligman. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. This is her first film, and she's only 26 years old, so I think she's doing an amazing job, and I can't wait to see what she does next. Also makes me feel like a failure.
I've not gotten a chance to see this film. I know it was a short film initially, and I'm guessing that was Emma's proof of concept. I'm very interested in watching it.
Definitely recommend it.
Yeah, obviously, I do too.
So, Caitlyn?
So, my number 5 film, I guess this is so hard. I had my top 3 in mind for this, but 4 and 5, those slots are being very difficult, and I think I'm going to go ahead and put Petite Maman as my number 5 pick, and that is a film by Celine Sciamma. I mentioned it before. Her last film was Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which I also absolutely loved. And this film, without spoiling too much, a little girl, she is staying at her grandmother's house after she passes away, and she's dealing with her mother, who is very depressed at this time, and she's just a young little girl. And so she goes off in the woods to play one day, and she runs across another little girl. And what happens is very heartwarming after that. It's a film that it's short. It's a shorter film. It's a sweeter film. It's quiet, but it's very heartwarming, and the mother-daughter relationship in this film is just something that hit really close to home for me, I think, just as someone who, has a very deep relationship with their mother, which I do. I think that this film just captured that perfectly, and I definitely shed some tears.
When you said the mother-daughter relationship, I thought you were about to relate yourself. As somebody with a mother, really, it's like, oh, okay, just call all those people out. For that film, I read really quickly your review on Letterboxd, and you said that it was a surreal movie. It's that kind of visual you look for, that sort of fantasy to the realism.
It's a magical realism film, and it doesn't really go too much into explaining what makes it magical and what makes it that way. It just kind of is a world that exists, and as an audience, you just accept it as it goes on. And when I talk about it being a mother-daughter story, I mean, for me, that's something that I think hits close to home for me. That and sibling stories tend to just hit close to home for me. So it was a very personal pick for me.
Yeah, I do want to check it out because I also like the magical realism films, and there's not many out there. So I usually make sure to go out and watch them. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch this one in time. I watched the trailer, and that's why, not saying I didn't like the idea, but for the other movies that I had in the lineup, I wasn't confident that this should be pushing things aside.
Yeah, it's definitely a quieter film than some of the other ones that we're going to be talking about. And I just want to say, Celine Sciamma, I'm just in such a rush now to go and watch her other films because I think she does a really good job. So moving away from our number 5 best film of the year, let's go and talk about another category. Let's talk about what was our biggest surprise of 2021. And you can take this however way you want it. So it can be a film that surprised you in a positive way. Maybe you didn't think it was going to be very good and then it surprised you. Or it can be a surprise in any other way. Maybe it had something that you didn't expect in it.
So for me, this is my biggest surprise in years, probably for the decade, which was Godzilla vs. King Kong.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, I'm getting some weird looks, but... So this is not a good movie. Let me put that right there. This is not a well-made movie. This has some of the worst, not even some of the worst writing. Its writing is not tight. Things don't make a lot of sense. There's not much story here. But I like the giant monsters and everything. I was always interested in this Monsterverse, but it's a franchise that just kept me disappointed. I did not like the first Godzilla at all. Fun fact, Caitlyn and I on our original podcast actually did an episode on that in our Lost podcast.
Did we?
We did not. Yeah, we did.
Oh, I don't really remember that.
Yeah. Or was it Lionel and I? I think it was
just
us. One other person.
I think it was, the original Godzilla. Yeah, that's right. That sounds correct.
Yeah. The original Godzilla of this Monsterverse. And then you had, I believe after that, it was King of Monsters. Or no, Skull Island. And then King of Monsters. Skull Island, I didn't mind too much. And then you had King of Monsters. King of Monsters is a movie that I went out and I made sure to watch in IMAX. I think with the original Godzilla 2. And I was thinking, well, hey, if it's a dumb movie, at least I can enjoy it in IMAX. Nope. Wrong both times. Wasted double the amount of money to see a film that I did not like at all. I really did not like Godzilla. Godzilla King of Monsters was even worse. So when this came out, I didn't bother looking up movie tickets or anything. I found this on streaming. I made sure to at least make a good dessert. My brother was excited for this movie, and I had a friend living with me at the time that was excited to see this movie. So I said, hey, just go ahead, put it on. If anything, I can tune it out, get on my phone, whatever. And I actually ended up really enjoying this film, and I actually wish that I got to see this film in theaters. A lot of times, I'm pretty sure, I know you, Caitlyn, and I'm pretty sure you, Deon, we get a lot of people that come up to us and say, oh man, why can't you just enjoy a movie? Because we don't like the Transformers or the Fast and Furious. We don't like a lot of maybe not all the Marvel movies we like, but there's still a way to do it. I still like big, dumb fun. My problem with the King of Monsters and Godzilla was actually the human drama. It reminded me a lot of Roland Emmerich films, where it's just uninteresting. So to see this film was just focused on the two monsters fighting it out, and I think it looked great. it got from one piece to the other set piece, and it was a short movie. It got right into it. So I really enjoy this film. This film goes into the list of movies I had, which are not necessarily good movies, but I had a really fun time watching it. And I don't mean like bad movies that are unintentionally good. I mean, these movies just were not written that well, written and directed that well. And I still had a really fun time with it. So this was the biggest surprise for me.
See, I actually enjoyed Godzilla 2014, and I have the opposite effect where I hated it as it progressed, and I did not enjoy sort of Godzilla versus Kong. Yeah, and it shows up on one of my lists, or one of my categories. I love sci-fi films, but there's certain things that it needs to be a little bit plausible if it exists in our universe. Like, obviously, if it's a superhero coming from another planet and stuff, it's like, all right, that's fine. But Godzilla versus Kong definitely had some elements in there where it was like 100% scientifically unfeasible, specifically traveling to the core of the Earth in a matter of minutes, which just doesn't play well with me or mesh well with me, because obviously it is set in the confines of our planet Earth. So it was just like, ooh, that kind of annoys me. But I thought the original Godzilla had some great performances between Bryan Cranston and Aaron Taylor Johnson, and then Elizabeth Olsen. I enjoyed that, and so I kind of feel different.
Yeah, I feel different as well, but I think because, like, if we're going to talk about just wanting a movie that's just big dumb fun, I think that was Skull Island.
Yeah, Skull Island, yeah.
Not this film.
I did enjoy Skull Island.
Yeah.
Wasn't too big of a fan of the monster one.
King of
Monsters.
King of Monsters. I feel like the fights in Kong versus Godzilla, I don't know, they didn't do it for me as much as they did for you. Well, I think I'm learning that we definitely view fight choreographies and scenes differently.
Yeah, it seems so. Maybe, I don't know, I don't want to spoil what happens at the end, but that last fight is just the kind of big dumb fun I've always wanted to see on a screen. That really much is like being a kid and having some action figures and playing with a friend. But I'm not going to convince anybody here that it's a great movie and there's a reason you should love it. No, I'm going to sit here by myself. I'm completely fine with that. If you want to sit down and join me, you can. We'll have a great time.
This going to be your best picture number one?
Maybe. Keep the suspense going.
So my biggest surprise of 2021 was actually Pig. Pig is a Nick Cage film, and when you're getting a Nick Cage film, you never know what you're going to get. And so going into this, I just knew that it was Nick Cage and he had a pet pig. And I think the only other film I saw with him in it this past year was Willy's Wonderland, which is a hot mess. I watched it for a bad movie night, so it was definitely intentional. But yeah, but when I watched Pig, I thought he did a good performance. I thought it was a touching movie. It was kind of an anti-revenge movie, and I thought it was pretty well done.
Yeah, I watched Pig this morning, and we were talking about log lines, and that's a great log line right there. Nicolas Cage and Pig. I'm sold. When I first saw this film, I didn't even watch the trailer. I actually just heard good things about it. I looked at the summary, and I was thinking, okay, it's Nicolas Cage. I guess he's playing more of a straighter role than he usually does. It's not going to be as crazy. To find out, no, as it goes on, I'm like, oh, here's why he signed on. Not saying he doesn't have those like dramatic roles. I love Leaving Las Vegas. So I love both sides. And this kind of goes in the middle. It does have some larger than life elements in there, some scenes. But yeah, I really enjoyed this movie as well. Can't say I was surprised by it, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I kept seeing it as the anti-John Wick. And I liked how it subverted the revenge tropes.
I like that too.
For me, my biggest surprise was Shang-Chi. Oh, and The Legend of the Ten Rings. I thought it was one of the better Marvel films. I thought the action was incredible. Simu Lee, who I believe that's how you pronounce his last name, or Simu Lee Lao. Edit whichever one is correct, which we find out.
It's Liu.
Simu Leo. I knew him from Kim's Convenience, so I was really happy.
Yes, such a great show.
I was really happy to see him headlining. He's an incredible actor. Yeah, I actually enjoyed Awkwafina in this film, which sometimes I feel she can be a bit too over the top, but I thought the comedic beats were working for the film. The action was great, and I actually was surprised by some of the story elements and how the narrative sort of progressed, which was good. It was breaking the mold of Marvel a little bit further from their standard superhero story. So yeah, I thought that was a big surprise, especially since I personally had no knowledge of Shang-Chi, like comic books previously.
Yeah, I didn't have any knowledge on him either, but I definitely was excited for this one going into it. So I don't know if I was fully surprised, but it is nice to see a Marvel film that doesn't really feel like a Marvel film. And I think Shang-Chi was probably my favorite film from last year from Marvel, and probably in my top of all time from them. And what a hot family that was in there. Simu Liu, his sister, his mom, his dad, everyone in that family was just so hot.
Yeah, I agree with you, Caitlyn, about the movie.
Not about them all being hot.
No, yeah, the family too. Yeah, the movie, I was there with you. I can't say I wasn't like fully surprised. I would say that you do feel that this is a Marvel movie in that third act, and that's the only thing that kind of held the movie down for me. Though I didn't realize it till later when I was thinking back to the movie, and I think it just had that Marvel third act that it usually has. But I loved everything up until that point, and as far as Marvel third acts go, it was still good. It was still a good light show, and I did enjoy the one fight between the protagonist and antagonist before it got too crazy. But I really did enjoy that movie. It is probably one of my favorite Marvel movies.
So that was our biggest surprises of 2021. What was your biggest disappointment of 2021?
For me, my biggest disappointment was Mortal Kombat. I enjoyed the games. I don't know why it shouldn't have been a disappointment, because we know video games hardly ever work. But I think leading up to it, sort of the previews gave me hope that it would be a successful breakthrough video game film, and it was not. It was terrible, in my opinion. The characters, the acting was terrible. Some of the reveals, it was a dumpster fire for me. I don't know if any of you feel differently, but that was definitely the biggest disappointment for me in 2020.
So I actually saw that one on a double feature in the drive-in theater near me with Kong Godzilla. And so that was after Kong Godzilla, so I think I maybe appreciated a little bit just because of the slating, because I really did not like Kong Godzilla. I'm sorry, Brian. But I think it had some dumb fun, but yeah, it was not a good movie.
No, it wasn't a good movie. I think, yeah, there were some things that were good. I agree with a lot of people that Kano was really good. I had a lot of laughs with Kano, but there's just a lot of things that don't make sense in that movie, a lot of things that go against the video games, a lot of questionable decisions. Jack's arms, which needs to be mentioned as well anytime talking about this movie, because that was an odd choice to go about that. Somehow robotics and magic go hand in hand. So I can't say it was a disappointment, though, because it was a video game movie. But, I admire that hope that you have, Deon. I wish I still had that little bit of life in me that can say, oh, man, this is going to be the one. I stepped away from this toxic relationship. If the video game movie is good, it's good, but I'm not going in there with hope.
Fair enough, yeah. I hold out hope for everything.
So, Brian, what was your biggest disappointment?
My biggest disappointment, and this is where I said that we were probably going to get controversial, Caitlyn, because my biggest disappointment up until this afternoon, was Last Night in Soho. However, that's only because I had high hopes for Last Night in Soho, and while it wasn't the 5 out of 5 that I was expecting, it was just like a 3 out of 5 for me. But there's a movie that I'll actually rate lower that I was expecting more, and I feel like had a lot more hype to it, which was Demon Slayer Mugen Train.
Does that count for 2021?
Yeah, that was 2021. It was released on the West Side in 20. Crap! It was 2020. It was Japan.
Maybe we can still count it.
Yeah, for the West Side. We're going
for
by.
The West Side.
Yeah, because I believe we had another movie here that we're fitting in for 2021. So yeah, we'll fit it in just for this category at least. And another. Yeah, this movie had a lot of hype behind it, and I'm not gonna say I'm the biggest Demon Slayer fan, and I do have a lot of problems with Demon Slayer. But its action is fantastic, if anything. So seeing this in a condensed form, I was hoping that it would show out its best. And one of the problems I had with it is that it was so loud, which is one of the things that annoys me in the show. So for the first half, it was a lot of the things that I don't like about the show in there before it got into what I love about the show. So unfortunately, and I mean, we were hearing a lot of hype about this. This thing was breaking records. People were trying to get it out to the West faster. That way it can become an Oscar nomination for Best Animated Film. So I thought this was going to be something revolutionary because they were doing something new. This was an anime film that is not a spin-off. This is an anime film that is not only canon, but goes along with the story. Like, this is an actual arc. It's as if you had a season of a TV show and they said, hey, for season 2, we're just going to make it a movie. So I found that really interesting, and unfortunately, this movie did not live up to those expectations.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you there. I mean, this was the highest grossing film in Japan. It beat out Spirited Away for now being the highest grossing. So I had high expectations. Ufotable, the studio behind it, they don't miss when it comes to action scenes, and their visuals are spectacular. But I think the story, it was lacking a bit. And I think a lot of times for Demon Slayer, it lacks a bit for me. Talking to people who have read the source material, I don't know how much the studio is to blame, but I thought it was a weird choice to have a movie on, but it was a bit of a disappointment.
How about you, Caitlyn? What was your biggest disappointment of 2021?
So my biggest disappointment 2021, and I was actually expecting Bryant to say this movie, and it was Titan. This movie was from a director who did Raw, which did very well. It wasn't my favorite film. I think, Bryant, you like Raw a little bit more than I do, but it showed a lot of promise, and so I was excited to see what this director was going to do next. It's hard not to spoil this too much, but at the beginning, the premise that's going on is that you follow a woman who is sexually attracted to cars and has sex with a car and becomes pregnant. And that's how this movie starts off. And I wish I could say that it lived up to that zaniness, but it just fell flat for me the more it went on. And it had a great trailer too, so I'm a little disappointed.
Yeah, this was close to being my biggest disappointment, and there's a reason I didn't put it in there. And we'll get to talk about this movie more because it's in another category of mine as well. But as far as disappointment, I don't think I was too disappointed because, yeah, I really like Raw. I like Raw a lot more than you do. I think Raw is a fantastic movie. But I wasn't really expecting too much from the director because that was the only other film the director had made. And I watched the trailer. It was one of the best films at Cannes. I think it was the Cannes winner. And yeah, no, I didn't like this film either, but Mugen Train was more of a disappointment for me. And I found room for Titan elsewhere.
Yeah, I also feel like all I've seen is really good reviews for it, so I don't know, maybe it's just me. So we talked about our disappointments. What's a movie that lived up to the hype that was given for it?
For me, it was Dune. Almost.
Almost.
As far as all the films that I was hyped up to watch last year, Dune was at least the closest to meeting that expectation. Now, while it wasn't, again, the 5 out of 5 that I wanted it to see, or was expecting to see, especially because Denis Villeneuve is my favorite director, like my number one favorite director is him. So I was expecting a lot from this movie, but it didn't fall too short there. I think there are some problems with this film. I think he was holding back a little bit, or at least I'm hoping that he was holding back a little bit for Dune Part 2. So I am so excited for this one. And again, I'm going to give it all the hype that I gave this one as well. But it still came close. It came closer than any other film that I had a lot of hype for. And I still had a great time watching this. And excited to see the second one.
For me, the movie that lived up to the hype, and we had a whole podcast that kind of went into this already if you want to go back and listen to our Oslo trilogy episode, but for me, it was The Worst Person in the World. This was definitely getting hyped on Twitter a lot, and I think you've learned through some of our episodes that we don't always trust Twitter reviews, but this one lived up to it for me. Like I said, if you want to hear more about that, please go back and listen to our Oslo trilogy episode.
Yeah, that was a good one too. I didn't have hype going into it. I should have. I'll definitely have hype if he decides to make another one of these.
For me, Spider-Man No Way Home lived up to the hype. I think it was excellent fan service whilst also being a very good film.
I feel like it was hard for me to have hype for it because it was all spoiled before it even came out.
I mean, I still had the hype of who, like, yeah. I mean, even though it was spoiled, there was still the hype of knowing that they were in the film and knowing that the villains were in the film and sort of having that expectation. It was all going to be way too much. So that's where I was concerned, was it was going to be way too much. It wouldn't have the proper timing to sort of process all this information. And obviously it could have easily been a ridiculous, sort of storyline, which I think they did pretty well. And I enjoyed it from start to end. I didn't find anything majorly wrong with it. Obviously, it is a superhero film, and you sort of need to have the love of the previous Spider-Man to sort of really, really enjoy the film. But I think that's where it worked, is I was hearing all the hype, and I went in there, and I didn't leave disappointed.
Yeah, so I saw this movie as well. I actually saw this movie for you, Deon, or because of you. When we announced that we're going to be doing this show, or when Caitlyn had the idea, we're talking about the movies that we had to watch for this year. I knew one of the biggest movies was Spider-Man, and I read on Facebook, you praising this movie a lot, and Caitlyn was telling me how much you really liked this movie, so I said, all right, I'll go out and watch it. Not going to lie, I wasn't hyped up to watch this movie. Actually, I don't like this MCU Spider-Man. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, though. Spider-Man is my number one favorite superhero. I have comics by him. I've read the original comics. I'm trying to get through all 700 of them. But this Spider-Man in the MCU just doesn't do it for me. I would say that it beat out my expectations. It was a little bit more than I had expected. Actually, with all the spoilers out there, there was still one surprise for me in there. And I mean, I watched this months ahead, so pretty much the whole movie was out there for me. But nothing that I didn't know before the movie was even released. Because they're not the best at trying to keep things a secret and say, oh no, that wasn't what you thought it was. Yeah, it was. It makes complete sense that you're doing it. But I like that they tried. I respect that. I would say that this movie did invoke a lot of emotion out of me. A lot of the emotion that I do get from a lot of the Spider-Man properties. The big scene in there, the big emotional scene. I definitely felt that. So the movie was better than I expected, but I wasn't hyped for this movie, if anything. I mean, I guess it was a bit more of a surprise because it beat out those expectations, or at least the last third. The first like half of the movie, I was thinking, okay, this is the Marvel movie that I thought it was going to be, and then it started to kind of change and go into something else that I appreciated more.
Yeah, I agree with you. I didn't have high expectations for this. I also am not a fan of the Tom Holland Spider-Man at all, or his story. So I definitely had low expectations going in. I think it beat my expectations, but as far as the hype that it received, I don't think it's warranted. I think it's an okay movie. Definitely a better Spider-Man movie than the first two as far as the Tom Holland verse is concerned, but it was alright. It was fun. It was a fun movie. But that first hour was unwatchable to me.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was unwatchable. It's just I've watched it 100 times. Actually, I didn't even see the second one, Far From Home. I haven't even watched it. Don't even plan to. So I just watched this third one. But like I said, I did enjoy the last half, the third act, a bit. So much that I'm even putting away an opportunity to dogpile on Deon here, because I thought that was also going to be a chance. I was like, okay, Caitlyn thought it was okay. Let me go in here. But no, I understand why people love this film, and I definitely understand the hype behind it, and I think there were some good parts to it. But one day, Deon, or later in this episode.
So our next category is a film we disagreed most with the critics, and maybe I should have put No Way Home for this one for me. But for me, I actually put Saint Maud in this category for the film I disagreed most with the critics, because this was a horror film, that's on the top a lot of people's best horror of 2021 lists, and I thought it was okay. I don't think it was really that much of a horror film. I think it is a bit slow. I feel like the premise isn't really all there for me. I thought it was a disappointing movie, so the fact that it was getting on the top of all these horror lists, I just did not understand.
I wasn't too surprised. I didn't go out and watch this. It did look like that type of horror where the critics will love it and the audience not so much. And I know you were telling me that the audience did appreciate this film a little bit more, but I'm only seeing a 64% on Rotten Tomatoes. And usually when you see that 30% differential in horror movies is because it's that type of horror. Either it's kind of a art house horror or it's elevated horror. And sometimes I'm with the critics, sometimes I'm with the audience on it. It usually depends on the movie, but I'll say recently I've been more so with the audience on some of them.
I will say that I think 2021 was just an awful year for horror. I think there's a couple that were decent, but in general it wasn't a good year. So I think that's maybe why it was up in a lot of people's lists from what I saw. But it was pretty disappointing.
Wait, I said the same thing. You gave me a hard time off the
For
air.
what?
We were talking. I said I don't really remember.
No, I said that. No, I said there was a lot that people were critically acclaiming, but I don't think that personally that it was a very good year for horror. Because everyone I watched that was hyped up to be really great just was a failure to me. Like that one we watched, like Saint Maud, like Censor, and Come True. That was another one that was getting a lot of hype, and I wasn't a fan of those. There was a couple of good ones in there, and some of them we might talk about later.
For me, this is where I'll put Titan. Titan, like I said, was the Cannes winner. It got a lot of critical praise, and it was supposed to be from the sounds of it, because I mean, it sounds crazy, but I guess this was supposed to have like, you know, that real deep art to it. And yeah, no, this is just a movie that's just pretentious, I would say, more than anything else. I would say it had an interesting concept for like the first 20 minutes. I was digging it, and then it totally fell off, and it got really weird. Like, it even got kind of awkward to watch because I was watching with my brother. And I mean, we watched some stuff, but this one was just, like, what are we both sitting here next to each other watching at the moment? It was a very odd film that I think they thought they were saying more than what they were showing, but there wasn't much there. And I feel like for anything, it was just there for shock.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I disagreed with the critics on No Time to Die, the long-awaited Bond, end of Daniel Craig's Bond saga. It was a waste of Rami Malek as the villain. The storyline felt rushed, and also a lot of the relationships in the film seemed it just didn't fit with the Bond character that had already been developed. So I definitely disagreed that it was a satisfactory conclusion, especially for the fact that they had 2 years to refilm whatever they needed. They pushed the film back. I believe it's the most pushed back film in all of history because it got pushed back, but like 7 or 8 times. I didn't necessarily think it was a satisfactory conclusion. But then again, even though Daniel Craig is a fantastic actor, the Bond series, this current Bond series, has been very hit or miss. Skyfall being the best one, then a Casino Royale, and then the other 3 people don't typically enjoy. So I didn't go in with too high of expectations. I saw the critical acclaim coming in, and I thought maybe it would live up to Skyfall, and it did not. And it did Daniel Craig's swan song any justice.
I will say I've never seen a single Bond film, so I'm just going to have to trust you on this one.
I haven't seen many. I've seen most of the classics. I started with the Daniel Craig films, so that was sort of my starting point. But even from hardcore James Bond fans who like sort of the cheesiness of the originals, didn't necessarily like some of the elements that there was in No Time to Die. So they couldn't even write it off as sort of, oh, we're just trying to appeal to like hardcore fans. So I would not recommend.
It's interesting you never watched a Bond film, but I guess we're going to be doing an episode on a couple of those in our core show.
No. Bond is not something that particularly interests me, so that might be a dreaded pick, but okay.
Yeah, I skipped out on this one. I skipped out on the last one to Skyfall watch. Skyfall I really liked until until people started mentioning that it's a lot like The Dark Knight, and then I watched the video comparing it to The Dark Knight, and it kind of took it down a bit for me, but I still really enjoyed that movie. I wanted to like the Bond movies more, but yeah, unfortunately I never heard really that many good things about it. Even this one, actually, I heard okay things. in comparison to the last one, but I didn't hear crazy things about this one.
I believe it holds at 85% on Rotten Tomato, so that's pretty much why I chose it for this category, because that's what the critics were hailing it, but I know audience reactions were overall pretty disappointed with it.
So taking a bit of a break from our categories here, let's go ahead and go back to our Best Picture picks. So let's go ahead and talk about our number 4 film of the year.
My number 4 film of the year is The Green Knight, which is another movie that Caitlyn got me into, sort of. At least you got me hyped up for it.
Yeah.
I saw the trailer. I thought it was pretty cool, but I remember you were going crazy for this film. I was like, oh, that's a cool film. And then you were losing your mind. And I was like, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I feel like there's something else there. And then you explained to me this, how do you pronounce it? Arthurian
legend, yeah.
Legend? Yes. And I started getting really excited. I was like, that sounds really cool. I'm not sure how accurate the tale is to that one, but I really did enjoy this tale. It's a hard movie for me to recommend. However, if I do recommend this to anyone, I have to let them know that this is not your typical knight's journey. This is not your knight going off to redeem his honor and slay the dragon or anything like that. Actually, as far as slaying goes, there's one time that our knight fights, and it's in a drunken bar fight, and that's because somebody calls his mother a witch in the best way possible. I actually kind of laughed. I would have hated to be in that bar because he probably hit me too just for the way that I was laughing. That guy has some great comedic timing for being in the medieval times, whatever time it took place. And he even loses his sword at a certain point. This is a knight like you've never seen before. Just he is terrible, but it's all leading up to a certain point, and when you get to that point, it makes it all the more better. And I like that a lot. I actually like this film. It is an art film. It has a lot of neat visuals, a lot of things that you can talk about. I know we were talking about one of the things like the giants that are just coming across. I think the performances were all great. I want to see more of Dev Patel, as always. I actually like Alicia Vikander. I know you do not, Caitlyn. So I was glad to see her not in there only once, but twice, which I didn't understand, but I was cool with it.
Yeah, so this was my most hyped film for 2021 going into it. And it's another film that got pushed back a little bit. I love Dev Patel as an actor. He's one of my favorite actors, honestly. And I love Arthurian legends. I'm an English major, so that might be part of it as well. And I thought the cinematography and everything in this looked amazing as well. And I'm a little sad that this isn't going to be in my top 5 Best Picture films, and that's because of Alicia Vikander. It's not that I don't like Alicia Vikander. I think she has been in some roles that I enjoyed, but in this film, I did not like her performance at all. And I didn't really like the role that she played. I thought it was a little bit unnecessary to have that love interest in the beginning, personally, and as someone who has read the original legend. I think this played it a little bit straighter than the original legend as well, but it is what it is. But yeah, I actually really did love this movie. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, it's just not going to be in my top 5, so I'm glad it's in your top 5.
That's surprising because she wasn't in there that much. I don't know, maybe I'm different. Maybe I like women in my film, Caitlyn. But she's only in there for a couple scenes, so I'm surprised.
No, she's in there a lot. She plays a big role. I just rewatched part of it this morning, and she's in there a lot. And like I said, the whole idea that there was a love interest that he left behind at home, I felt like that was a little unnecessary.
I think it played more into it as well because as he's leaving, you're kind of seeing a lot of his character before he even goes on his adventure because of that love interest.
I guess, but I just saw Alicia Vikander being Alicia Vikander. I just don't think it was a very good performance. I thought she was annoying, and I don't know. I didn't like her. Everything else in the film, though, love it. Dev Patel, amazing. Deon, what about you? What's your number 5 film? Or number 4 film, sorry. What is your number 4 film?
My number 4 film is The Worst Person in the World. I really enjoyed the film. Not necessarily that I enjoyed the main character. I'm usually not a fan of indecisive people, so it was very interesting to sort of get this sort of glimpse into how much of a struggle life can be for someone who's constantly trying different things because they're not necessarily sure where they want to end up. I thought the performances were great. Even though, like I said, I don't necessarily particularly like seeing indecisive like people that just go around, things like that. But I still thought the lead actress did an incredible job in performing the character. And then it was heartbreaking. I ended up sympathizing with her in the end. So, yeah, I really enjoyed that film. Thought it was great.
Well, not all of us can have our lives together like you, Deon.
Well, not necessarily.
I guess I was just able to empathize more.
Not necessarily have it together, but sort of not involve people in the turmoil of your indecisiveness is damaging, and we saw that with certain characters in the film without giving too much away.
Yeah, she's definitely a character that I found myself like yelling at the screen at.
Yeah, exactly. And it's always interesting when you watch a film like that and you walk away and still enjoying that you were able to partake, because I know we're often told like you're supposed to love the main character. I think you're just mainly supposed to want to follow them. And this was one I was just really interested in following, seeing what will she become? Or will she have a huge downfall? Someone was hoping for that one. But it was interesting to watch. And yeah, and I thought cinematography was great. I thought the pacing was amazing. I loved how it's separated into chapters and energy was high. And I think it has one of the best drug scenes I've ever witnessed.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty accurate on how a bad trip can evolve. So I was really like, oh wow, they did their research here.
So my number 4 pick is actually going to be one that surprised me. I didn't think I was going to like this film very much, and then even as I was watching it, I thought it was a good film, and that was about it. But then for some reason, this film has just stayed with me since I've watched it, and that film is Spencer. And I gotta admit, I'm not very well versed in Princess Diana's life. I think I have memories of her death from when I was younger, but I didn't really know too much. And I actually looked up some more information about her after watching Spencer, and so I thought it was an interesting take on that, and an interesting take on the biopic. But also, there are just scenes in here that, you know, that make you anxious, that are tense. There's a lot of very beautiful cinematography moments in here, and I just can't get it out of my mind. I liked this film.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. There were definitely scenes that made you understand very quickly about Princess Diana's isolation at family. I wish it was a bit more historically accurate, but I know it serves as sort of tribute piece more than this is exactly how her life was. But I did enjoy it. I really did. And I thought Kristen Stewart did a great performance.
And I never knew that she struggled with bulimia either. And I looked that up, and I found out about that afterwards. So that was very interesting to see, because I had no idea.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't able to fit this movie in, but it is one of the 2 or 3 films that I do plan to, after this show, go ahead and watch, because I've been hearing good things. At least Kristen Stewart's performance is great, which I do believe she is a good actor, so I do want to see this.
So, Dan, I saw you just got a glass of water. I just got a glass of water myself. And that's good, because things are about to get a little spicy, I think, for our next category. Things are about to get a little heated, I think. Because we're going to talk about a film that made you angry. So what is one film that you watched that made you the most angry?
Almost every year, I've had at least one film that makes me angry. Of course, I'm passionate about film, so yeah, I do get a little worked up with certain films. And this year, 2021 for me was Candyman. Candyman made me really upset. I really did not like the message of this film. There were 2 things wrong with the message. One thing that made me angry is that this film could have said a lot, and it did say a lot, but it didn't explain a lot. It just used key words. It actually didn't go ahead and look into what they were actually talking about, which is upsetting, because Candyman, yeah, it is a horror movie, but the original Candyman even had a lot to say for its time as far as as far as the black culture and some of the struggles within the inner city and the projects. And now we have all these other current issues that a lot of people are really well aware of. Thought this movie was going to go ahead and show that, but instead they just said words. They just said gentrification, oppression, and then they would just move on from the conversation. They never actually apply that to the storytelling. So it was a lot like sitting down with somebody and all they did was do some headline reading and they try to have a deep conversation with you. But then as you're trying to go ahead and apply details and facts and other opinions and theories, they're just repeating the same thing. Like they don't have anything else. It was very shallow, but it was trying to make itself seem like it was a lot deeper. My other issue with this, and this is like the only film I can really think of that made me offended as a white person as well, because I am black and white, and usually those offenses come from me being a person of color. Things never really had an issue with thinking that a movie was offensive to white people, but I felt like this film did. Towards the end, there's an issue with a cop, and it kind of goes with like saying that at least white cops can't be trusted, they're overly aggressive, things like that. And it doesn't even set it up. It just puts it in there. It doesn't go with the message or anything. And it seems like all they're saying is white people or white cops can't be trusted. And that's it. And the movie ends as if that was his final message. And I was very annoyed by that.
I didn't think it came out of nowhere. I thought there was sufficient build up for that, but I do kind of agree with you about some of the shallowness.
I haven't gotten an opportunity to watch it. It was on my must-watch list. I've yet to watch it.
Yeah, and I'll say my white side of it was not offended at all, but I think that we definitely have different views of that.
Yeah, and it could have just been in different views, but that's what I got from it. Whatever message it was trying to make. Also, the movie wasn't even good. It was rather boring. It was rather your stereotypical spiraling down the madness, a little bit of interest in body horror. I did like the kills a lot that they had in it with the mirror effects, but other than that, this movie, there wasn't really much to it. Very shallow film.
Yeah, like I said, I'm definitely going to disagree with you a bit on this film, but I think my main gripe with it was just the ending for our main character just felt so kind of out of nowhere and so mean-spirited. Like, I mean, not that you need to have a hopeful, heartwarming ending, but it just kind of felt dreadful, what happened to our main character, and it just didn't leave me wanting to see this film again.
No, I agree too. I didn't like the way that ended, even though it made a little bit of sense, but it didn't seem earned.
So, Deon, what's a film that made you angry?
It's a film.
Come on, loose cannon.
Yeah, it's a film that we previously mentioned that Bryant actually enjoyed. It was Godzilla vs. Kong. It made me angry.
Here we go.
Well, it's just the fact that I don't know.
Let them fight.
Right, exactly. I was ready to fight the screen. I was just really out of that film. I just didn't enjoy that film. I thought it was beyond ridiculous, and not even in a good way. I guess there was the last action sequence that was pretty to watch. I think it didn't go on long enough. I didn't think there was enough fighting in the film. I thought some of the human drama in the film was pretty ridiculous. So I just didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy the film, especially since I don't know. I kind of had hope for the franchise after Godzilla 2014 and Skull Island. King of Monsters was watchable, and sort of I felt like King of the Monsters was the better action film than Godzilla vs. Kong. I just didn't like any of the characters, and I thought the whole conflict of the film is very, very convoluted.
Like I said, I can't sit here and persuade you that it was a good movie. I don't have a good argument for it. For me enjoying it, like I said, this isn't a good movie. It was very personal, very opinionated why I like this film. So I really can't even, if you hated this film, I get it. I can't even argue with it. I think the only real argument I ever had was Caitlyn saying that Mortal Kombat was better. But
I agree with that. I think Mortal Kombat was definitely just completely unwatchable.
Okay, so there's a little bit of agreement there. But like I said, I'm not going to fight you on this. Sorry to disappoint, Caitlyn. I'm not that much in love with the movie.
Yeah, no, it's all right. So I had narrowed it down to 2 movies for me that made it angry. And originally I was going to go with Annette. Annette's an artsy musical, and it takes a certain type of person to be able to get through it, and it wasn't me. And I think I was more angry at myself for trying to sit through it. But actually, the movie that I'm going to talk about, and it's going to be even more controversial one, I think, is going to be Power of the Dog. I can't stand this movie. I hate this movie so much. I want to preface, I don't think that this is a sexist or homophobic film. I think it does its best to subvert that at the end, but the journey of this film, it's a very boring, long film. And the journey through this film, you look at a lot of stereotypical tropes when it comes to the gay community. And it's a film that's all about homophobia and sexism throughout. And then there's a twist at the end that makes you kind of come more to terms with it and feel better about it, I guess. But for me, it was such a quiet film and such a quiet twist that it just didn't warrant me having to sit through all of that. And for me, I didn't know much about Jane Campion going into this film. I know that she took a long hiatus and this was her big comeback. I think that she's a beloved director by critics, by the Academy, but I feel like, especially after hearing her latest comments about Venus and Serena at the Critics' Choice Awards, I feel like this is not a woman who should be talking about things that are outside of her own experience. And I generally believe that filmmakers and writers can talk about things that they haven't experienced if they're willing to put in the work. And I realized that this was based off a book that was, I think it was a memoir, but I don't know. I didn't feel like this was her story to tell. Like I said, I feel like there are a lot of stereotypes in this film that just frustrated me, and I just did not like this film. And I think the only reason why it's getting as much hype as it is because of the casting of Benedict Cumberbatch, who I also don't really like as an actor, but I know people love him, and also by the performance by Kirsten Dunst, which I didn't think was a very good performance at all, because she kind of just stumbled around and acted like a stereotypical drunk in this film without really giving me much more than that. So I just did not like this film at all.
I enjoyed it. I won't say it was that great of a film. I agree with you. I didn't think Benedict Cumberbatch or Kirsten Dunst's performances were anything to like really write home about. I didn't think they were that amazing. I thought they were both pretty flat. I did enjoy Cody Smith McPhee and his character, and sort of I kind of enjoyed the little turn at the end, a little surprise, but then it was just like, I don't know. I don't think there was the build up necessarily to it. I think all the drama that Benedict Cumberbatch's character was inflicting on the family was a little bit subdued. So when the big twist happened, I didn't think it was like, oh, wow, that was kind of extreme. But yeah, I enjoyed it, but I don't think it was that great of a film. I probably will never watch it again, to be honest. Even though it was filmed, I think it was filmed in New Zealand. I still like the aesthetic of the Western feel. But yeah, it was all right.
Yeah, I think I'm just so tired of the closeted gay man targeting and bullying the more effeminate character. I think we see that so many times in so many movies that it made this film feel dated to me.
I mean, I kind of enjoyed the fact that he started giving into it, and trying to get to know Cody Smith McPhee's character, because yeah.
But isn't that what we see in all of these tropes? With every film that we have that trope, or every show that we have that trope, isn't that always how it goes? I mean, look at Sex Education. I think Glee did it too, which if Glee's doing it and then this is getting nominated for Best Picture, this is a bit of a problem, but I don't know. Personally, I'm tired of it. I thought that as a society we were getting past those stories, but I guess not.
If we had a category for most confusing film, I would put this there. Not even really confusing, as I was just sitting there wondering, what's the point? Like, why am I watching? Like, I kept trying to figure out, where's the conflict? Is this slice of life? Is this building up to something? Is is this person important? What am I missing out here? Am I not intelligent enough? Is there some literary element that I'm missing? I was a bit bored. I would say that, yeah, the twist, if you want to say it was a twist at the end, was interesting. The reveal, that was interesting. It didn't make up for the rest of the film, and I can see why this film makes you angry, Caitlyn, because we do see that a lot. And also, I just feel like this film played it too safe. Like, they use a lot of, I'm forgetting, I don't know the word for it. You would know. There's like a lot of homosexual symbolism. He was, so like when he was putting the stake in the ground, and he was sort of kind of like dry humping the stake as he was putting it in, and he did it a couple times. And then when he was doing the rope, showing how the rope would, like, how the braid went into the hole, and then he would tighten it up. I was like, just say it at this point. This is ridiculous. Like, is this a cartoon now? What are we doing here? And I agree, Kirsten Dunst. Yeah, okay, she's returning. That's cool. She's playing a very stereotypical alcoholic, and not even a good alcoholic. I mean, just the movie stereotypical alcoholic. She's throwing up, drinking at random places, and she's just kind of being like way too carefree and sleeping all the time. Nothing really interesting about that. Nothing really feels real about that kind of alcoholism. It feels very, very dramatic. The first thought that comes to my head, if you want to see some real good alcoholism depiction, I think A Star is Born. Bradley Cooper did a good job with that kind of alcoholism, like with the real humiliation that comes with that. I think now I'm starting to get kind of upset with this film.
Yeah,
this film does not deserve all the praise that it's getting. It doesn't do anything new, but I understand why it's the Oscar nomination. It has everything it loves in it. It has
white people.
It has white people. It has the Midwest. It's a period piece. It has a returning actress or actor. It has a actor that we usually don't see in a role that is high profile right now, even though Benedict Cumberbatch, as I text you, Caitlyn, is just playing the unhappy cowboy, and he's going to let you guys know about it. It's like some of the most passive aggressive. And again, I'm just watching it like, is this all leading up to something, or is someone going to blow up at some point? Yeah, this does not. Like, I see why it was nominated, but it doesn't deserve it. Yeah, I didn't realize how much I disliked this film until just now.
Yeah, like it just makes me so mad. I think every time I think about it and every time I see all the praise for it, I just get even more mad.
Especially because all these people have done better things, and a movie like this has been told better.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Also, I just couldn't take Benedict Cumberbatch as a cowboy. I don't know whose idea it was to star the British dude who looks like a British dude
either.
as an American cowboy. I mean, I guess there were some English cowboys. Like, I'm pretty sure like some Englishmen stuck around, after we drove them out. So there probably were some English cowboys out there. But I would think that they would keep up the accent and, I don't know, make a movie about it, the English cowboy, and then star Benedict Cumberbatch. But this was just very hard to believe him as the cowboy, because he had all these like rancher followers that all seemed like they were the new guys on board. They were all like infatuated with him. They're like, "Hey boss, what's that over there?" "Well, that's a rope that we make out of the hide." Like, and what are we going to do with those beasts over there? We're going to ride them. Those are called horses.
Yep, I definitely got that as well. It had good cinematography, I guess. I'll give it that. But it didn't do it for me.
It looked like a tourist video for New Zealand. I can't even give it best cinematography. I
don't think it's the best at all. But
I mean, I didn't notice the New Zealand thing too much. I'm surprised that's what Sam Elliott was heard about, not Benedict Cumberbatch as the cowboy. So I'm guessing he didn't watch it because he'd be more upset.
Yeah, he was.
Oh, he was too? Okay. I headline read it. I'm not going to lie.
It was a pretty homophobic statement in which he put out. I guess the one thing I could agree with that he's mentioned was, Benedict Cumberbatch's character did wear the chaps the entire film. He never took off his chaps. So I guess, like you were saying, Bryant, there's sort of that queer coding sexual symbolism in this film that was pretty on the nose and could be rendered offensive. Yeah, and that was one I did pick up on, is like, why the hell does he not take off his chaps? Oh yeah, because assless chaps, of course, that's what gay people wear. And for anyone listening, I'm a gay man, so I can criticize.
Yeah, that's why I said I don't think Jane Campion was the one who should have told this story. If they had to adapt this guy's memoir, if they had to do it for some reason, I don't think she should have been the one to do it.
Yeah, it did, and I agree. When Bryant brought it up, I did start to think about it. Like, yeah, she was pretty heavy-handed with sort of that symbolism. So, in a way, when you kind of think about her creative process, you can't help but sort of be offended, because it's like, how can I make this sequence more gay? Let's have him jerking off the steak or something like that. So, yeah.
How long was her hiatus?
I think it was several years. Hold on, let me look it up really quick.
Could it be that she just went out of touch for like the last few years, and now she's like, "Oh wait, you guys are cool with this now?"
Well, I think she's like also like one of those rich lady directors from A Big Family, from what I understand. Could be wrong. 2009. Okay.
Star.
I don't know. I've never seen any of her movies, and I don't really want to after this because I don't know. I don't like her. I think she's very privileged. Her comments about Venus Serena rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah.
I don't like this woman.
And that was confusing. Those comments were confusing. I know she apologized, but it's just like, I don't feel like how did you make that mistake? To how did you stumble on your words so hard, to say Venus and Serena Williams never had to challenge men. It's like, yes, yes, they did. So.
But not in the way that I had to deal with men as a white woman.
Yeah.
Irritating. I don't like her. But anyway, I could probably complain about this movie all day long, but let's go ahead and change topics a little bit and go on to our next category, and something a little bit lighter. Let's talk about a film that made you laugh.
For me, The Suicide Squad. Another movie that did make me laugh that I mentioned before that I'm blanking on the name of right now. Shiva Baby. Shiva Baby also didn't make me laugh. But Suicide Squad, I think I got the most the most out loud laughs, and I was watching it with some friends as well, and we're having a good laugh. I was watching with you and Coleman, and we were having a good laugh as well, and I think it's a movie that's a little bit more quotable as well. So I had a good time with this. This was almost one of my bigger surprises. I think at least this was a big surprise for a lot of people last year. So yeah, I had a good time with this.
I will say it was enjoyable. I thought it was funny in the moment, but now that I try to think back to any element about the film, I can't remember the storyline whatsoever. But I will say it is a good film, and during the moment, I was having some very large gut laughs. But ultimately, I think the story was a bit forgettable. But I did watch all of Peacemaker as well, and that show is actually a very good show.
Yeah, I've seen the show, and I agree, it's hilarious.
For a film that made me laugh, I really enjoyed The French Dispatch, Wes Anderson's latest film. I thought it was funny. So there's to give a little bit of a backstory, it's about a newspaper company called The French Dispatch, and the film is broken up into separate stories about the journalist writing about different topics or following different leads, and I thought it was just hilarious. I laughed at every story, and I thought, obviously, Wes Anderson goes further and further into his quirkiness with each film, and this one doesn't disappoint if you like his sort of aesthetic. A lot of his quirkiness, and then also, medium shifts. There's some animation in the film. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really funny.
Yeah, I didn't watch it either. Honestly, Wes Anderson used to be one of my favorite directors. He's not so much because of that Wes Anderson aesthetic. A lot of the movies just started kind of blending together for me, and they weren't doing anything more than the films that I already loved by him. I do plan to watch this one day. Don't know how soon that's going to be, though.
I feel like when he hits, though.
I don't know. I think, for me, even if he hits, some of his movies that he's made have been, some of my all-time favorite movies. So I don't know if it's just at this point, because his last two that I saw, Grand Budapest Hotel and Isle of Dogs, I didn't enjoy that much, but I know we're getting a lot of praise. So I don't know if it was just because I I've seen a little too much by him, or if it's because they just aren't hitting for me.
I wasn't too big of a fan of Grand Budapest Hotel. I couldn't understand how that one could fall a bit flat. I think this one is a bit different in sort of the storytelling, and then it has a great a great cast. It's usually the same ones, but I say give this one a try. I think it's a bit different, and I think it's a bit faster pacing and more up-tempo jokes in Grand Budapest.
Gotcha. Okay. So a film that made me laugh, and this isn't a comedy film in any way, shape, or form, but it's going to be Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy by director Ryusuke Hamaguchi. So we actually heard a lot about this director from his other film that came out last year, which was Drive My Car. But this was another film that he directed last year, wrote and directed, and it's a series of vignettes that follow different women going about their lives in Japan. And like I said, this is definitely a drama, but there is a moment in the second vignette that I recommend to anyone who, is going into screenwriting, wants to see just good writing, just to watch that second vignette, because it's amazing. It's well done. And I had the biggest laugh in that one vignette that I think I've had for any other film this past year. And to have that from a drama, I thought was really interesting, unique. But I don't want to spoil too much about the conversation that was had. Like I said, these vignettes definitely follow conversations between different people. And in this second one, it's a conversation between a student and her teacher. And it goes in a direction that you just wouldn't expect. And it's absolutely hilarious. And if you don't watch the whole film, at least watch that second vignette.
Yeah, I'll have to check that one out. I didn't even know about that one at all. You're going to have to send me the title because I already forgot.
Yeah, it's Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy. Which also props to that director for releasing two feature films in the same year. Good for him.
Especially when one is 3 hours long.
Yeah. So, you deserve some attention for that. So let's talk about a film that made you cry. What is a film that made you cry? We're going through all the emotions now. So we talked about a film that made you angry. We talked about a film that made you laugh. And now we're going to talk about a film that made you cry.
For me, it was it was between two movies. But the one that I decided on, because it was the one that almost brought me to tears as I was watching it, which is Swan Song. And Deon, you mentioned how Apple Plus, how they have good log lines. I think for this one is another good one. It's about a man who is terminally ill, who has to make the choice for a clone to take his place when he dies. And I think a lot of emotion is brought to this film, more than just the choice itself that has to be made, but also just watching this man have to come to realization that he is going to be separated from his family. The second one I'll give a call out to was The Worst Person in the World, which Deon talked about. That one I was like empathizing with, but it wasn't until later something happened and I ended up relating more to that film. But as far as like in the moment watching it, Swan Song was the one that started to pull my heartstrings.
For me, I already talked about Petite Maman being a film that made me cry, but another one that pulled at my heartstrings was actually Belfast, particularly after the passing of one of the characters in that film, and just the uncertainty of this family and what they're going through. I felt for them.
Yeah, that was another rough moment. That movie is emotional as well.
It's emotional, but like I said, it still is sweet. It's still a heartwarming film, and I think Belfast is a film that I think has gotten a lot of criticism online. I think people are saying it's the generic Oscar pick of the year, but it doesn't really deserve that. It's just Oscar bait film. But like I said, that's Power of the Dog for me. Belfast, I think, deserves some recognition for what it is.
Yeah, Power of the Dog is definitely that. I mean, we just named off all the reasons that is that. And yeah, the Oscars couldn't look away from that.
For me, this film was meant to be released in 2020, but was delayed till 2021. It was Judas and Black Messiah. That made me cry in 2021. Just sort of witnessing sort of the setup of a prominent black figure in a community. It was just a hard watch. And Lakeith, you can definitely feel the turmoil he's in, realizing that he is being pressured by agents whilst also starting to understand what Fred Hampton and the Black Panthers are trying to do for not only the black community, but any community oppressed by the U.S. government. So, yeah, it was a very hard film to watch.
So let's go more into some of the normal categories that we have when we talk about films, some of the Oscar categories that we see that we're a little bit more on the crafting side of the filmmaking rather than the talent. Let's go ahead and talk about best screenplay for a minute. What film do you think had the best screenwriting?
Worst Person in the World. If you listen to our episode or plan to listen to our episode, we go into a lot of detail about why that screenplay is just amazing. It's one of the most honest pieces of writing I've ever watched in film. So for them to be able to craft that and still make it, you still have to put in the theatrics, of course, that goes into film. But just like the words that were being said, the responses that people had in it, all the conversations, they had a reality to it. And it was amazing to listen to and to watch. This is when I look at best screenplays, I look at a film that I can turn off the visuals and I can just listen to. Granted, with this film, it's going to be a little bit hard because it's not in a language that I understand. But if I did, this could be a film that I could just turn off and just listen to.
It could possibly be that the subtitles are better than the actual dialogue. Like the English subtitles, they wrote a whole new
whole new script.
But no, actually, that is also my pick for best screenplay. The Worst Person, and for all the same reasons where I felt, man, this could have been taken out of the page of anyone's life because dialogue seems so authentic, and then people's motivation and personality were so thoroughly crafted that I was like, wow, yeah, this works. Like I said, again, the main character isn't the type of person I like in real life. It's not the type of person I particularly like to watch on screen. But I think between the performance, the screenplay, and the authenticity, it compelled you to watch because it was real. You could feel the realness of it.
I definitely agree that Worst Person in the World deserves best screenwriting, but I do kind of want to switch it up a little bit, and I want to talk about Drive My Car, which was written by the director Ryusuke Hamaguchi, and I just talked about Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy, his other film, so I think watching these back to back gave me a better appreciation with him as a writer. I think this is a writer who is a master of dialogue. I think his films, both of these films, are very dialogue heavy, and I think he's an absolute master of it. And he's a writer who's not afraid to take risks in other areas of the screenplay in order to enhance that dialogue. And while there are moments where I was kind of wondering, okay, why did he do it this way? Why did he make this decision with this writing? But I think in the end, it all just comes together and it really does work. So I want to applaud him for taking risks and for his dialogue.
Yeah, I think Drive My Car was my second choice.
Mm-hmm.
I still need to watch it. Like I said, I was having trouble fitting movies in, and of course, this being a 3-hour movie, didn't have the time.
Yeah, that runtime is intimidating. I wouldn't say you don't feel the runtime, but I think it uses the runtime well. So moving on to another category, let's talk about best cinematography.
Yeah, for that, best cinematography for me was Dune. I know, obviously, there was probably a lot of green screening involved. The cinematographer is Greg Fraser. I just think every still frame in that film, any moment that you pause could just a background, your computer screen. I thought it was beautifully lit, shot, and I think for me it deserves cinematography.
Actually, no green screen was used for that film.
It was like the sand screens to give it a more natural look.
Yeah, something like that. They used some other type of screen. Of course, they didn't find a giant colossal worm out there.
Right. Well, some type of chroma keying had to have happened, but I know they did shoot mostly on location. And that adds to it because the desert is always a beautiful landscape to film.
I'm going to actually switch up my pick and agree with you on Dune. I had another pick here, which was West Side Story. The reason I'm switching it up is because the cinema... Caitlyn, you can't make that face. You didn't even watch the movie.
I don't care. I don't like West Side Story. We've been through this. I'm biased against West Side Story. Yes. But yeah, I haven't watched the new one.
Yeah, but the shots look amazing, but there's much more being put into the movie rather than just where the camera is being placed. And Dune, while yes, there is a lot of work going into what is on screen, it is, like you said, Deon, and looking at best cinematography, you can stop the movie at any point and frame it on your wall. And I think Dune does that excellently.
I think for me, I was really torn between two different ones. So first, I wanted to talk about The Green Knight. I think that the shots in there were very well done. And I think for such a dreary environment, the use of color and everything else and the lighting everything was really well done. And that was the cinematographer that was Andrew Dros Palermo. I think there is some inventive camera movements in there. But I think my number one pick is actually going to be Spencer, and that cinematographer is Claire Mathon, and she also was the cinematographer for Petite Maman, and both of those films were in my top best picture, so I think that she did a really good job, and also props to women cinematographers. And also, I've been on a bit of a Twitter, I don't want to say a Twitter rant, but I've been kind of getting frustrated with the view of cinematography lately, because I think that there's this conversations that are happening with some of the newer films coming out that cinematography has almost become synonymous with composition. When you're talking about cinematography, there's so much more involved with that, because you're talking about, yes, the composition, but the camera work, the lenses, the lighting, there's a lot more to it than just the composition. So there are a lot of things that go into this craft.
I will also agree, Spencer, beautiful cinematography. I think Dune is still my number one.
I'll agree
Dune,
with it.
I think there's just so much that went into it that it is super impressive.
Yeah, and that's usually Denis Villeneuve for you. Of course, the credit goes out to his cast and actual cinematographer. But
I was going to say, who is the cinematographer for Dune?
Greg Fraser.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't Roger Deakins this time, who he's worked with before and has done a stellar job with looking at Blade Runner 2049. I agree with Green Knight. Green Knight would probably be my runner-up. I actually completely forgot about that, but thinking about a lot of shots in that film, they were done really well.
Interesting. Greg Fraser is the director of photography for The Batman.
And I hated that cinematography.
Yeah, I thought some camera shots were not that great. I thought some were really good, and I thought some could have been better with some proper editing. I could see him being a great cinematographer. There's just some weird choices put in there, but I do see the greatness.
I feel like The Batman's the first film where I ever really noticed the lenses being used, and I didn't like how they were being used.
Yeah, they did have some very shallow depth of field shot in The Batman.
Yeah. But let's not talk about The Batman. Let's not get into Batman too much. If you want another argument, we have a whole podcast about that, so go check that one out. Let's go back to 2021. So we've gone through quite a few films from 2021 already, and I've been through a handful of categories, and I can say I'm pretty excited to see what our next choices are going to be as far as our top films go. But I think this is where we're going to leave off for the day, so if you want to hear what our top 3 best picture picks are, as well as hear our thoughts on best acting, directing, and franchise inclusions, be sure to listen out for our next episode when we bring you part 2 of the best of 2021. And if you want to reach out to us before then, you can find us on social media. On Twitter and Instagram, we're going to be at OpSilverScreen. On Facebook, it's Operation Silver Screen, but on Twitter, it's OpSilverScreen. You can also find us on our personal letterboxes. You can find mine at Coffee Spoon Kate. That's Coffee Spoon CAIT. And Brian, you can find him at Swank Seal. That's capital S, capital S. And thanks again, Deon, for joining us this episode. He'll be back for part 2 as well. So till next time.